our beading lesson today, we're going to talk about how to use some components in different ways. So take a look at this pendant necklace. What I did here is I created a bail using leather strap, and then I also used a big crystal as a link in the middle. Now normally that piece is used as a sew-on component. You would sew that onto clothing, but I like using these in jewelry applications because they have holes on both ends. Makes them a really great linking component for all kinds of different jewelry. If you take a look at the earrings that I made, these have a link here at the top. This is a sew-on stone as well, and then I use the strap to kind of frame that beaded head pin inside. That's a fun way of making your earrings totally different than how you would normally have just that beaded dangle. Then I also used a sew-on stone there at the top of the tassel earrings, just as a kind of way to bring in some extra sparkle with the tassels. And one more idea is using these in the center of rings. So you can use this leather strap to create all kinds of different things, and by combining it with those stones, it gives you some really cool design options. So let's start out with making the pendant. And the first thing that you'll do is take your tassel and feed the top of the tassel through a large hole bead. So I'm using this one has a really large hole. If you weren't able to get your tassel cord all the way through the top, you could create a little leader by folding a piece of wire through here and pulling it through. But it's not necessary when you're using such a large hole bead. Now I'm going to go ahead and open my jump ring and then just attach this jump ring to the hole on the crystal. So that is just a really simple attachment and cold connection here. So just take care that you don't scratch up your crystals as you're working. So we have that closed. Now for the top, I want to add a pearl here. So now I need to do some wire wrapping. And I'm going to use 22 gauge wire, and I chose a hematite color to kind of go with the colors that I already have in my piece. And I'm using a bail making plier because I want to have a really big loop here on this end. So I'm just going to bring my wire around the top cylinder on the plier. Then make sure that you slide your crystal onto the wire before you wrap that closed. Then we're going to wrap that with a coil here, and then add our pearl to the wire. So I'm just going to do a couple of wraps and then trim this close, and then add my pearl to the wire. Then I'm going to do another loop here at the top, and I'll use the other side of my pliers to just make a slightly smaller loop. And this time I'll grasp it again with my chain nose pliers and wrap it all the way around. And now we're going to create our bail. So we want to cut a short piece of the strap, and you can use, a couple of inches here. Basically, it depends on how long you want your bail to be. So I'm going to go with something like this. I'm going to use my wire cutters. You could also use scissors or cord cutters, but this gives us a nice clean cut. Then I'm going to keep my strap folded and use my hole punch tool here in the center. I just want to center it at the end, and I'm not expecting this to go all the way through both layers, but I am hoping that it will make a mark. Oh, there it did, go all the way through. But even if it doesn't, it will make a mark on the second one, and then you'll know that it's in perfect position here. Okay, so now what you need to do is test your jump ring. So you might need to trim a little bit of the leather off the end here. You want it to fit inside your ring. I'll show you what I mean. So place it right over the end, feed it through, and that one looks like it's going to be just fine. Then we're going to thread our loop for our pendant. You want to make sure that it's facing the right direction, thread it on, and then thread the other side of the leather onto your jump ring. Now this one looks like it might need a little trim. So we're going to just get that a little closer with our cutter, and then we can lay that inside the jump ring to create the bail. All right, so now there we go. And then I'll just close that up with my chain nose pliers. And we have our beaded pendant that then you can thread onto a chain, or you can thread it onto another piece of leather. There are, of course, endless possibilities for how to hang that. Now, one more idea is that you can create a ring using kind of the same technique. And all you would need to do for that is measure it on your ring mandrel. So take your strap to about the size ring that you want, making sure that you leave enough space for that linking in the middle. So I'm just going to cut it here instead. And it's the same idea where you punch the holes on both sides and then attach your link here through the middle of the ring. So if you take a look at the black finished ring here, it's the same idea. The black part is what fits around your finger, and then the stone is attached across the front using some jump rings.